Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. Welcome back to People of Quran, where every night I share with you a story about how one of our pious predecessors interacted with an ayah of the Quran. You know, every single generation had their share of trolls, had their share of overzealous young people, and had their share of humble mashayikh and not so humble mashayikh as well. Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala is by far one of the most dignified scholars that you will ever read about. He's a man, subhanAllah, that had haiba, he had presence, right? Where everyone knew when they saw him that this was the greatest scholar of their time. And Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, more so than any scholar, commanded, just a unanimous respect in his locality, and was unanimously the greatest faqih within his area. And so Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, you can imagine what it's like for him to hear someone young or to hear someone that's not so educated criticize him. Now this is a story where Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, he walks into the masjid after Salatul Asr, after the Asr prayer. Now in the school of Imam Malik, in the madhab of Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, there is no voluntary salah after Asr, even if that means Tahiyatul Masjid, even if that means praying the 2 rak'ahs when you enter the masjid. According to Imam Malik, the priority is to respect the time period that the Prophet ﷺ forbade us from praying within that time period, which is between Asr and Maghrib. So Imam Malik rahimahullah walks into the masjid after Salat al-Asr and he sits down in accordance with his school of thought, in accordance with what he taught and what he believed to be the truth. And when he sits down, a young man comes up to him. This is the young guy that picked up a copy of Sahih al-Bukhari and found the hadith and decided this is the ultimate truth and this is the only way to interpret something, right? This young man comes up to Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala and he says, when you come to the masjid, you have to pray 2 rak'ahs. Why are you sitting down? There's a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. He's telling the greatest muhaddith of his time. There's a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ that says when you enter into the masjid, you have to pray 2 rak'ahs. Now Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, he didn't tell him, sit down, let me tell you what hadith is first. Let me explain you usul al-hadith and tell you about the sciences of hadith. Imam Malik rahimahullah did not even say to the young man, do you know who I am, and calm down, and I have a different opinion. He didn't even say that in a kind way. Imam Malik actually got up and prayed 2 rak'ahs. And people were just shocked, because realize in the madhab of Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, you're not supposed to do that. So his students came to him after that and they said to him, why did you stand up and pray 2 rak'ahs when in your opinion it's disliked, it's makruh to pray a voluntary prayer, a nafilah prayer after Salatul Asr? He said, because I did not want to be one of those people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes in the Quran, Surah Mursalat, which is verse 48, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمُ ارْكَعُوا لَا يَرْكَعُونَ, that when it's said to them to bow down in prayer, they don't bow down in prayer. He said, I was too afraid to be one of those people. So even though that young man was wrong, and especially in his approach, I didn't want to fit into that category of people that are told to pray, that are told to do something like that, and they say that we're not amongst those that bow or that pray. Now the greatest lesson we can take from that, obviously aside from respecting our great scholars and predecessors and understanding their comprehensive knowledge and their approach and their humility, is for us as well. A lot of times someone comes to you and gives you advice, and the way they give you advice, you don't like it, so you reject the advice altogether. So, the message might be good, but because of the way that it was delivered or because of who the messenger is, you don't want to hear that advice. Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala is taking an advice that he doesn't actually even believe in, but because he's so afraid of letting his ego stand in the way or stand between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and allow him to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to have that same spirit that when someone tells us to do something or when someone gives us a good advice, we respect that sound advice, even if the way that it was delivered was not the best way. We pay attention and we think, how does Allah want me to react to this situation? What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want from me here? And of course, more than anything else, the gift of humility. The pride is the worst disease and humility is the greatest blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to free our hearts of pride and to place in our hearts submission and humility and sincerity, and to make us amongst those who, when they hear that which is good, they respond, and when they hear that which is evil, they gracefully stay away from it. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from our own selves and from the evil of shaitan. Allahumma ameen. Jazakumullahu khairan. Inshallah ta'ala, I'll see you tomorrow for the last episode of People of Quran. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.